Our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all. Hopefully folks have had a chance to take a look at the minutes from our July meeting. I would ask for a motion for approval unless there's a need for discussion about the minutes.
So moved.
We have a second? All right. All in favor of approving July minutes, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. Briefly, I'm going to turn it over to Steve Norsini in a minute. Just thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Hope everyone had a good August, is staying healthy and well in light of all this, and hopefully a chance to do some relaxing. Thanks for joining again. We're going to pick up some normal type business tonight. And we're going to start that with an update from Steve Norsini on trails. I know we have some new members, both adjunct members as well as members of this board, since the last time we had an update. So I think we thought it'd be a good time to get everybody on the same page about the projects that we're talking about and the status of all of them. So with that, Steve, if you wouldn't mind, please
Sure.
feel free to go ahead.
Okay, can I share my screen?
Co-hosting?
Ian, Steve wants to share his screen or have you share what was provided. Thank you. There we go.
Okay, so let me just minimize this. So I want to thank Tammy and the park board and the commissioners for just giving me a few minutes to update everybody on what's going on with the trail projects. So there are 4 trails that are in play right now, in various stages of design or pending construction: the Hartford Trail, the Ragnar Trail extension, the Dari Paoli multi-use trail, and the TAP Trail. And we're going to see some costs in here, and I just want to make sure everybody understands these are not the prices that are in the budget, because they have actually changed over time since the budget was published 9 months ago. And they also include the design, which was in some of these projects was well over $500,000. Oh, too fast. Okay. So the first one we'll talk about is the Hartford Trail and the plans. It's such a linear project. It was kind of tough to show the plans. So if you look at the top of the picture, that's Hartford Park. Down bottom takes you towards Radnor Elementary School. Years ago, there was a beat up old driveway that we used to walk to get from one end to the other. After a court case and land development of 2 lots, that became a private driveway. But there was much concern over this, as it's folks from the train station walk to the Kreuzberg Center and people use it. So we obtained an easement from the Brandywine Realty Trust to put this trail not on the driveway, but it's actually almost all on their property. The trail will be composed of wood chips to keep in the natural setting. Sealed bid price, we just received sealed bids for this. You can see it's $348,000 and change. This will be before the commissioners next on the 14th. The design consultant on this was Meliora. So if all goes well and the board approves the contract, this is a project. There is an issue with starting projects late in the fall. That winter can really shut them down. But if all goes well, by spring of next year, this project will be done. The next project is the Radnor Trail extension. So if you were to walk the trail when you end up at Radnor Chester Road, can you folks see my cursor?
Yes.
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 Okay. So this is the existing trail right here. So if this trail goes in, this is the Radnor Trail extension, there would be an at-grade crossing. You would come down this big hill, and more or less we're paralleling the pike. We're going past Martha Brown's Woods, and it ends up in a little tiny cul-de-sac down by the Blue Route right-of-way. So we're still in the design stage. We had some real hurdles to overcome. We were looking at putting a culvert under the street to cross. That added well over $600,000 to the project, plus other logistic issues with closing Radnor Chester Road. So this was the design that we moved forward on. So when I say total estimated cost, that's design, construction, inspection, contingency. The actual construction costs are around $600,000. The other balance of 325 is those remaining items. And folks, just jump in if you have a question. So the next one is the Dari Paoli multi-use trail, also known as the Ardrossan Trail. Again, this is a huge trail system. So a PowerPoint slide doesn't do it justice. But if you look in the upper left corner, you're at the Willows, and we're moving along. It takes you through Skunk Hollow, and then eventually down to the Wheeler Field, the cow pasture, if you will. And if you look down the lower left corner, you can see it's a series of paved and soft trails. So the rye field, the field that the township bought, that iconic view shed on the corner of Dari, Paoli, and Newtown, the intent for that, when we say soft trails, really that's just grass mowed lower than the rest of the grass. That's part of that is the same in the Wheeler track down here. It's pretty much, if you want to think of it, it's pretty much a hard trail all along Dari Paoli Road and through Skunk Hollow. But when we loop around on the Wheeler track and up on the rye field, it's just mown grass. There are 3 bridges as part of this project. Stormwater management, plantings. Again, the total, and these are not the budget numbers, they are also rounded just for ease. Total estimated costs are around $6.3 million. This is another one of those ones that had a design contract on the magnitude of $550,000. So we're still working things out with DEP, trying to get that permit. We applied for a grant. We did not receive that grant. Because of the size of this trail, we have broken it down into sections, to apply for grants, and also if the board wishes to move forward in some fashion on this project, they can do so in pieces. So if the board says, hey, we'd like to construct a portion of it, we have it set up so that can be done.
Steve, if I could interrupt you for a second and just ask
Yes,
a question. In terms of getting across Dari Paoli Road, is that going to be an at-grade crossing to get to the rye field?
So yeah, and I'm not showing it here, but at that intersection, now that it's a full stop, there'll be crosswalks to get you over there. So there will be the piano key crosswalks. Similarly, down at Sawmill Road, there will be a crosswalk to get you across Sawmill to the Wheeler Field.
And is there any linkage from this little, I'll call it a network for lack of a better term, any other linkage to any larger trail systems that are planned or coming forward?
Not at this time. So the TAP Trail, which is really part of a larger regional trail, which we'll talk about next, does connect. This is very much located in the ground that the township owns or bought as part of the Ardrossan subdivision. So the idea is you can go from the Willows Park all the way down almost to Godfrey, except for the piece, the Boy Scout parcel that was sold off. So it is pretty self-contained, but that doesn't mean that in the future it could not be part of other trails, because there is going to be a bridge right here. So when you cross Sawmill, if you want to get across the creek to our park, there is going to be a pedestrian bridge. And if you do that, you can hop on that trail that follows the creek all the way down. So there is some connectivity. I should note that.
Hey, Steve, is there concern about traffic and speed and any kind of safety issues at these at-grade crossings for both Dari Paoli as well as the Radnor Trail extension?
So that's a good question, Chris. So when I noted that the consultant was Melior Design, they're actually the lead, but probably the biggest work done by any single consultant on this was McMahon and Sons, which is a traffic consultant, right? They did a lot of this work. So we did have to get permits from PennDOT for those crossings, and we met their safety requirements. There's signage. There's what we didn't want to do in keeping with the area. I don't know if you folks are familiar with what a rectangular rapid flashing beacon is. There's one on South Hythen Avenue where the kids cross from the South housing area over to campus. And it's this really bright flashing beacon. We didn't think that was appropriate for this area, right, in the keeping of this area. But we do have there are the stop signs. There's the painted crosswalk. There'll be signage leading up to each on all legs coming up to it. So it came through PennDOT. Our intent is that it should be fine for folks to walk through, Chris. Of course, we'll always monitor that.
Right. And I have a second question, which this board has always had a concern about communication capabilities down by the Willows. And I'm just wondering, has there been any additional discussion about that with this process, and what your thoughts are on that?
So, Chris, as part of the design, no, that hasn't been. That was not part of the design or part of the discussion on that. And I know there was a lot of discussion with previous boards on the communication issue. So I really don't have an answer for you, but I can just tell you, when I say I don't have an answer, it was not part of the design criteria that we went through on this.
Okay. Hey, Sean and Damien, just, I think you guys know our board was concerned about progress and development at the Willows with regard to communication. And so just something that hopefully the board, is aware of and has some discussion about when the time comes.
And when you say communication, can you educate me a bit? When I think of communication, I'm thinking of, having just come back from a fire call, the radio communication, or, telephone communication. What exactly are you talking about?
I think we were basically talking about the fact that cell service is spotty at best down there.
Okay.
And if we're building trails and developing the Willows, and we are inviting people in to use that space more frequently than they are now, certainly, what happens in the situation when there's an injury or an accident or something else might happen.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
If I just
I know that's been a concern for a while, so I'm on the same page with you there.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to add to Chris, and I don't mean to cut you off, Chris. There was also, we had presentations before our board, at least on one occasion, if not two, about county dispatch connections and connectivity from that area, and there were concerns raised. And I'm not certain, Commissioner, how familiar you are with that line of discussions because it preceded your time on the BOC. But I know in your spare time, you're familiar with those types of communications.
Sure.
It's always been a big issue with our board, with concerns if, God forbid, you had another Katie Sampson type event down there, that you'd have problems getting hold of folks. And
Sure.
with inviting additional people down there, we want to make sure that's accounted for. So
Okay.
I didn't mean to take over, Chris, your questioning, but.
Yeah, no, thank you for.
That's important. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Steve,
Chris. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Did somebody else have a question?
Yeah, no, I'll just add on there. It's been an ongoing discussion, and I think it will be an ongoing discussion for the foreseeable future when it comes to cell service and emergency service, because it's not going to go away, and it's definitely something that will be brought up if this goes through. If I can just jump in here with one quick question, Steve Norsini.
Yes, sir.
This is so over how long of a period would this be? You said that you could kind of parcel some of this project out.
Yes.
So are you looking at I'm just looking from a budget standpoint because we will be in budget season soon. I'm looking at we're probably going to have a shortfall in funds this year because of COVID. How much of this, how much is the design going to be? And then do you have an idea, or you don't need to break it down now, but could you give a breakdown of the different parcels, if not now, later on?
So,
and I'd be interested along with that. My question was, what are the proposed funding mechanisms that are either in place or anticipated in terms of all three projects?
okay, so let's talk about funding real quickly. Let me go back up. So the Hartford Trail, which will be before Commissioner Enderle and Farhi Monday night, there's two separate bond issues for this trail, but they are short of this bid price. So at that meeting, the Board of Commissioners is going to have to determine how they wish to fund the shortfall. So there is, the majority of this is funded, but not completely.
Sorry, let me
And weighing that against bond issues that we've discussed just recently in terms of sanitary sewer, storm sewer, all of the other things that are on the table.
Right. So this bond issue was done specifically for these types of projects. There was actually
Okay.
two. There was a 16 and a 19.
Oh, they were. So they're already in place.
Correct.
Okay.
So the Ragnar Trail extension, we already have funding in place for that. It's in the capital improvement plan. It falls short. So so what I ask you is don't run back to the budget and look for these numbers because they won't match
Sure.
for two reasons. As these projects get further designed, we're able to get more precise numbers. So it'll be at the end of the design that I will go to the board and say, this is our best estimated probable cost of construction.
Mhm.
But this also includes the design fees, which are in the $300,000 range. So this project stands the chance, once we get this done and we go through the numbers, there is funding in place that this might be able to move forward. But again, I don't see that this design will be complete this year. We're just in the soil testing phase now, and we're going to have some other permitting issues to go through with PennDOT on Lancaster Ave on Radnor Chester.
Mm-hmm.
So the Dari Paoli multi-use trail is not funded. The only thing that was funded was the $550,000 for design. So there is no funding in place for this trail. We did apply for a grant. We were not successful with that. To Commissioner Farhi's question, and I don't have it broken down here, but you'll see it in the budget. So the various pieces that we broke it down into were like, 1.5 million, 1 million, 2 million. There are various pieces, and we'll present that to you at the budget. So that, conceivably the board could say, well, we'd really just like to do this piece that comes from the Willows, and take us to the parking lot at Skunk Hollow down there by the leaf dump. So we'll have that broken down, but this project has no funding for it other than the fact that the design was funded.
So, okay, so I'm sorry, because I'm a little confused here. Can you go back to the Hartford Trail with the 348?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's 300, and Damien, do you have any more questions before I jump in?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the 348, so you're saying some of that is in the budget or some of that is in a bond that we're going to float?
So this is a sealed bid price, right? We put this out to bid. It's a sealed bid price. In the 2016 and 2019 general obligation bonds, there was funding for this. I apologize. I do not have that exact number, but I know it is short of 348.
Okay.
So
you don't know how short?
Monday night I will.
Okay. So it's short, but that money is in a bank account somewhere where we can use. Okay. So for the most part, we'll say the majority of that is funded for the Hartford Trail.
Yes.
Okay. Good.
By far the greater majority of it.
Okay. That perfect. And let's go to the next one for 925. Now
actual construction costs for this are about $650 as they stand now.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have money. This is actually, so the board approved an additional design contract for this about 3 months ago to Campbell Thomas, the consultant that's noted below.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have money in the budget for this. And once we can whittle this number down a little more, this project may actually be able to move forward, but we just need to check where our numbers are. And you also have to look at when we budget money, we budget for everything. So it's design, construction, inspection, and contingency. Contingency is usually 15%. Inspection is usually based on the hourly rate our appointed inspector provides, multiplied by the number of hours of the project, or a percentage. And then there's the construction. But you got to remember, these are estimated costs for construction done by a consultant. The real deal is this number here. This was a sealed bid. This is what it came in at. So in the end, it's going to be the sealed bid. But this project, and again, we do have a considerable amount of funds for this. This may be able to move forward in some fashion pending board approval.
That's sealed. Okay, sorry. That sealed bid. How old is that sealed bid?
How old is that? That just came in like a week ago.
Oh, okay. So it's not from 2018 or something.
No, so when I say a sealed bid, this was put on pen bid and
Okay.
bid on by contractors for the sole purpose of the board awarding it.
Okay.
That's not an estimate. That's what the lowest responsible bidder for that project is.
Okay. And I know that I don't want to take too much time because this is more of a budget thing, but could you look the shortfall that we have, could you look to, and I don't know if I don't want to say I'm asking for your opinion, but I'm just throwing this against the wall here, where it's probably going to be something where obviously we can't fund this, the board. It's obviously something that would be in a much larger bond, obviously.
What project, Commissioner?
The one for nope, next one. Yep. And then you could add in some of the shortfalls, if so, in some of the other projects.
Yeah, well, you as the board, so when those bonds are issued, they're issued for specific projects.
Mm-hmm.
The board has that ability to not do a project or shift funds towards another project. And Mr. White's very good at pointing that out. And when these issues come up is how we're going to pay for things. But so again, we need to do more work on the Radnor Trail extension before we really start to look at prices. And again, I'm asking you, don't go running to your budget and say, I don't see 925 anywhere, because you won't.
Okay.
The price has changed since the original bond issue and since the original budget from last year. And I'm also showing a recent design contract.
Okay. All right. So,
Steve,
sorry.
Steve, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, sir.
So weren't there some grants that were kind of possibility for helping fund this?
We did apply for several. We only got one for like $50,000. We weren't too successful on this. I will say there is obviously a lot of competition for the grant money. So you'll see on the next project that we were really successful with grants. But on this one, not so much. I think we got one for 50 and one, that was it. The rest we did not get. Same thing on the larger one I showed you, the Dari Paoli multi-use trail.
Mm-hmm.
We applied for a grant for that. We were unsuccessful. Not that the projects aren't good, they're not viable, but
Sure,
the grant agencies, there are different criteria, and how they move forward is always for them to decide.
Okay, thanks.
Steve, I have a question. With this current slide up, the upper left section of the Ragnar Trail, the culvert has been avoided. It was too expensive, you said?
Correct.
And this is the existing path would be coming in from the left, and the new path would be, that would be the paving up here. I'm concerned. That's a real, I'm concerned about safety for people crossing over there. I drive that a lot. I'm sure you all do. It's right by the township. If they come up from the left and they would cross over, as opposed to going under the culvert, which is out. That's a high trafficked area.
Yes.
Did you say, what was your plan for that other than the piano keys?
So we have talked about, and we will discuss with PennDOT. You remember I mentioned those rectangular rapid flashing beacons?
Mm-hmm.
That may be something for there. So PennDOT's going to have a lot to say of what we do here, because this is considered a mid-block crosswalk, meaning you're not crossing at the intersection of two streets, right? And that always makes these more concerning. So aside from the signage, as of now, we haven't gone through that PennDOT permitting process.
Okay.
But we will see what they come up with. But that is high on our concern too. We don't want to see anybody get hurt. Absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of people, it's almost like a blind, as you come up the hill or coming up from Conestoga, it's almost a blind spot until you're upon it.
And so this is the trail here existing.
Yeah. Right.
You would walk down here, and what we have is two things. There's an ADA access, and there's actually a set of steps. So you would and come up here, and then away you go. Okay. And just for anybody's benefit, this is the project, 117 Radnor Chester. If you can see my cursor, the 3-lot subdivision that was in before the Board of Commissioners. They had requested waivers for the project. Those waivers were not granted. So they are appealing the denial of their plan. But this is actually a 3-lot subdivision from here north, just for some general knowledge. The Dari Paoli,
Thank you.
yes, go ahead.
Thank you.
I was just going to add to that, Steve. I happened to sit in on the Bob Thomas call this week
Yep.
about the trail, and Bill, just to, I asked the same questions, but because of moving about where to cross, because of they're moving the cross more north on Radnor Chester, you're not at that crest of the hill anymore.
Okay.
And then the other thing that Bob mentioned, and Harry, a guy who works with Bob, is that there are water and gas lines, right, Steve, that do not need to be dug up anymore with this plan. So it's super duper cost saving at this point. But
We're looking at 600,000 savings.
Yeah, that's a lot. And the other piece is it doesn't preclude from someday putting a culvert in there. It just solves it more quickly. But someday down the road, there could be a culvert in there, even though there's backfill. But I asked the exact same question, and this sort of mitigates it a little bit with cost.
Yeah.
And the issue was, so there was a whole host of issues. There was a water line there, there was a gas line there, and we worked with utilities for months to see how we could do it without disrupting service. Then there was a whole issue of the size of the culvert, the height of the culvert. Were we going to make the culvert large enough for construction traffic to go through? Were we just going to make it for pedestrians? And then there was access to the site for the contractor. It was a real, there was a host of issues trying to do this. And every time we met, the price of the culvert went from 2 to 4 to 6 as we investigated all these issues. And then Bob Thomas came up with what I call a very simple solution to what was a complex problem at the time. We just shifted the trail up right by that property line, and you're going to come down this bank and then you get on. So this area will be a lot of fill, right? Because it's so much lower than the street, but you'll come here, you'll traverse the slope. Of course, it'll be level where you're traversing, and then you get down to the grade of the old railroad bed. So again, we talked about this. We're at roughly 6.1 in estimated construction costs. This project is not funded other than for design, and we did not get the grant that we tried for. The TAP trail, that is moving very quickly now. So I just showed 2 slides here, basically. The biggest portions of the hard trail and TAP trail were the area right by the senior high, right? That's this orange line. The school district was great. We attended some meetings and we received our easement agreements from the school district. And let me tell you, dealing with PennDOT easement agreements is like dealing in Greek. It is amazing how complicated they can make a simple procedure, but they really do. And I have to thank the school district for all the help and signing those easement documents. The other hard portion of this is by Cornerstone. So if I can try to get you in the right location, this is South Ithan, where it dead ends with Bryn Mawr Avenue. This is actually the Blue Route underpass. When you go under there, there's already a stone path that goes back there. Well, this will be the bottom leg, the southern leg of the trail that takes you into Haverford Township. So this trail, the TAP trail, as you can see, it's a series of paved trails and a lot of road sharing that will allow a patron to traverse the township from the north part to the Radnor station to Haverford Township at the south. This does connect to the Radnor Trail. So this trail has connectivity in multiple ways and is part of a larger trail network. So we were very good in getting grants for this one. 2.25 million in grants were received. This project is actually being bid by PennDOT, but it's going to be inspected by a third party from the township. The board of commissioners already awarded that to McMahon & Sons. Again, this goes through the Penn bid ECMS system. We expect a late fall bid and with completion in 2021. Estimated cost is about $3 million. That's design, permitting, construction. So what's going to happen, this project's going to go to bid and then it's going to come back to the commissioners because there's 2.25 million in grants, but obviously there's additional funds for the project. A lot of that's already been paid in design, but the board will have to approve that. And the consultant on this was Simone Collins. And while I have you captive, so to speak, I do have 2 additional items, if you would bear with me. So a portion of the TAP trail went down Conestoga Road and at Lenore Avenue, took a hard left across Conestoga into the West Wayne Preserve and up to the Ragnar Trail. So there was a lot of folks with a lot of concern about people coming down Lenore, crossing Conestoga at that area. So we were able to take that out of the TAP trail. And what we did instead was a sidewalk project. So if I can try to orient you, this is the Wayne IEC. So I got to figure everybody knows where the IEC is, right? This is the cleaners. So this is Conestoga and West Wayne. So there's existing sidewalk all the way down here. This project is really just going to make the sidewalk ADA compliant, wider. There'll be driveway aprons. And then when we get down to Highland Avenue, there'll be an appropriate crosswalk. We cross over, and then we go into Friends of the Radnor Trail Park. This is the veterinary hospital right here. There'll be upgraded curb and sidewalk here, and then now you're in Friends of the Radnor Trail. So the genesis for this project was nobody seemed to want the piece of the TAP trail that went through the West Wayne Preserve, had people crossing at Conestoga, had the folks at Lenore very upset. So we took it out, and I said to the designer, why can't we use this? We have a sidewalk in place. It will alleviate the problem at Lenore, as well as this. I don't know if you folks know, but actually a decent amount of folks use this sidewalk during the day. If you're ever out and about, you take a look. So it was a matter of not installing new sidewalk, but basically replacing sidewalk, taking you down, and it gets you, it's a better entrance into Friends of the Radnor Trail Park. It takes you right in there. So this estimated cost is about $280. We're
you have the addition of the existing light.
Pardon me, sir?
Conestoga and West Wayne. You're not adding an additional light.
No, so what we're doing is there's going to be a ramp, but this goes back to that safety factor. So the Radnor TAP Trail actually comes down West Wayne Avenue from this direction. So what we have to do is just do some ADA improvements here. And so now when you come down West Wayne Avenue, you will cross safely at a traffic signal, and then you can traverse all the way down into Friends of the Radnor Trail Park, as opposed to the at-grade crossing we were talking about further up at Lenore and Conestoga. So this project was actually approved by the board to go to bid. We're wrapping that up. We have a few easements yet to get, and we did get that approval from the board. So once we get those easements wrapped up, we will go to bid and bring that back to the board. The last one more I have for you is the Friends of the Radnor Trail Park and the West Wayne Preserve. So the West Wayne Preserve, that's this over here, was known as the Levin Tract. So this is being designed for stormwater management. And I'm not really going to get into detail on this, but this is a picture of what it may look like. This is actually the reason I wanted to bring it to Park Board. So this is the Friends of the Radnor Trail Park. This is the parking lot. This is what some people call the dog park. So the plan would be, I don't know if you're all familiar with the flooding that occurs at the bridge on West Wayne, right by the park, before you get there, right by the vet. Mm-hmm. So our goal is to get some of that water, and we're going to bring it into a system that would be subsurface at Friends of the Radnor Trail Park. So the use and layout of Fort or Friends of the Radnor Trail will remain the same. When we're done, it would be all grass again. Everything is subsurface. The proposal is to take the existing stone parking lot and convert that to a porous paving parking lot. So what that does, so people don't always realize that that stone parking lot, for our calculation purposes, is impervious. So it would be a porous paving lot with a big stone bed underneath it. And if you go back here, under where the dog park, for lack of a better term, people talk, would be a large subsurface system. Again, if this goes through, we go in, we do all this work. When we're done, you have a porous paved parking lot. This is all nice new green grass. and it helps the folks downstream. Tuesday, we had a town hall meeting on this with the folks in basically from South Devon to West Wayne, Conestoga, down to like Arbordale. And we went into great detail on this. But I wanted to make the park board aware that a potential project exists that is slated to use parkland, if you will. So as you know, in stormwater, one of the largest hurdles we have is where we can install stormwater interventions and where does the township own property. So township owned property usually comes down to parks and other areas. So the Levin Tract, or I should say West Wayne Preserve, was purchased by the township for the purpose of stormwater management. I have a set of plans in my office that date back to 1999 where a design was done for this. It was never put out to bid or completed. I don't know why. That's long before I think any of us were here. But this also is to add these interventions, these stormwater management facilities are all designed to really help the folks downstream and along South Devon Avenue. But I did want the park board to be aware of this. And as we get further in this design, if it's okay with Tammy and the chair, I'll be back to get into more detail and give you a lot more on this, if that works.
That sounds like a plan. I'll hold any detailed questions I might have on that for a later date, but it's good to have this on our radar, certainly.
And so this is it again. So this is going to be before the Levin Tract portion, this area, because there's really not much in trees being removed. There's a lot of trees to be removed in this area. A lot of them are ash trees. A lot of them are invasive species. A lot of them are in decline. So we will be presenting the West Wayne Preserve Plan at the September Shade Tree Commission. Again, our cost is being updated. Melior Design is the consultant on that. And I thank you for your time and want to know if you have any questions that I can help you with.
Steve, thank you. This was very, very helpful.
Thank you, Steve. Good job. It was all really good information.
That was great, Steve. Thank you so much for reminding us of these things and bringing us up to speed.
Okay, and
I have a question. Are those the slides that you showed, are they available at this time, or?
So your meeting is recorded, right? So they're going to be, and this is what people are viewing, so they're going to be on YouTube. And I can send them to you. It's not a problem.
No. I can go on YouTube then. Okay.
But I can easily send these to you. I have them in PDF, and that goes a little better through the email. So that's not a problem.
Okay. I can go on YouTube. I don't want to create more work for you.
That's not a problem.
He already did it. He's got it already.
Yeah, I would just like to look at it a little bit closer, if I could.
Sure, that's not a problem. Again, don't hang your hat on the pricing, right? They include things that, the design and all that. And before the budget, so I've been on Zoom with all our consultants, we're updating our budget costs so that when we go through the budget, congratulations, Mary, we go through the budget, we'll have better figures. So I just want you, again, I can't iterate enough. Don't hang your hat on those numbers. A lot of them are rounded just for the ease of the presentation, as well as they include change order costs and design costs. The real cost project is the Hartford Trail. That was a sealed bid. So that is what a contractor has bid for that project. That is a real number. And that's as real as they get.
Steve, let me just jump in with the Hartford Trail. It's going to be a wood chip trail. And if we keep having the summers and winters that we've had, could that be self-sustaining from all the down trees? Or is that something that you don't want to use any kind of invasive?
No, so we will be asking, so Public Works is going to maintain this trail.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be the idea. I would hope that, I would talk to them and hope that, so we have a large tub grinder over at the Willows, right? And that turns everything into wood chips. Yep. So it would make sense to recycle, reuse, and be ecologically sound, so that when that trail needed freshening and updating or repair, that we use the wood chips from the trees we cut that have come down in the township.
Okay, sounds good.
It's just Sierra Club.
Okay. Any more questions for Steve before we let him go?
Well, thank you for having me, Tammy. Thank you for inviting me, and whenever you're bored, I'll be back.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Great job.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, moving on. I think the next new business we had was the Parks and Facilities Stewards and Capital Budget discussion. I neglected to circulate the most recent list of park stewards, which I should have done in advance of the meeting. I can take care of that offline and share that, and perhaps we can recalibrate, or if folks wish to recalibrate, we can do that going into the next meeting. I think the last sheet I had was a 2018 sheet, and there's some folks that are no longer on the board that have a park, so probably need to recalibrate that. And then Tammy, I guess the next issue, I guess I defer to you on how we want to address the budget. I know this is the time of year we always talk about budgets and things, and understood that there may not be a large amount of funds to fund our wish list. Nonetheless, I certainly defer to you, Tammy, on how we should address discussing that here in this forum at this time of year.
Sure. Well, first of all, just in regards to the parks and those in which the parks board members steward, I would just suggest that if anybody has spent time in the parks, because I have to imagine, folks have spent a lot of time in the parks recently, just, in light of maybe having some extra time on their hands. But if you have any anecdotal suggestions or questions about things that you've encountered maintenance-wise, feel free to throw those out. One of the things that we work on a daily basis, with the park staff is, going through the parks and seeing things that need to be fixed and redone, and, different areas that, are on our list for, just general routine maintenance, not, aside from anything that's a capital expenditure that we know that sits there. So I would just suggest that as you see those things, just like the residents tend to do from time to time, throw those out there, suggest those, with 26 parks and so many spaces and, 400 plus acres, of space that sits out there. We can't be everywhere all the time, even though the park staff does a really great job at that. So I would just continue to offer that, as we move along and move forward, even though some parks, I know are assigned to certain people and others aren't. I think people do spend a lot of time in a lot of different parks.
Tammy, if I can just jump in, Steve McNellis, who worked for the township for 30 years, who was a big part of those parks and helping keep them up to date and fresh and what the problems. He's retired. I think, is it Mike Simmons now? From what I know of him, he's great, but just so people at home that know what's going on out there, that we are experiencing a little bit of changing of the guard. And Steve McNellis, he was excellent. I only have wonderful things to say about him and how he handled the parks.
Sure, absolutely. And also Rick Foster was a field leader that was promoted to the Parks and Recreation, basically a park superintendent. So I want to point him out as well. And he has done an amazing job, coming up and growing through the ranks. And, he's got a lot of, good relationship and good rapport with the parks crew and the parks guys, and is doing an outstanding job at keeping the park going.
He is amazing, and he always has a smile on his face, and he's just a great guy. They're just assets that we have here at Radnor. So
Absolutely.
Just want to put that out there.
So I said, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Tammy, to speak over you. I think your initial comment was to invite, not criticism, but concerns with the park. I'm going to turn that on its head a little bit, and I think I shared this with you privately, but I was walking around the loop at Tennell and saw this wonderful structure there, which I assume is designed to hold the mulch come spring.
It is, and
looks great.
It does, and I actually have a picture to show everyone. Ian, if you want to just switch over to that right now, I'd be happy. It's a new design and is something that we may be replicating at some of the other park areas. You can ignore that one for right now if you just
Or just now?
We'll get back, we'll circle back to that one.
Thank you.
If you move on to the next slide, number 2 there, that's what the new system looks like for holding and retaining the mulch area. As I'm sure everybody remembers, the mulch that is in the parking spaces at a lot of the parks is just scattered all over the place, and
Or it's got those ugly plastic blocks. This is a huge improvement. Congratulations on this. This is great.
it is. It's a product called Vertiblock, and it's from EP Henry. And the blocks themselves are capable of being colored and stained, and can be changed to meet whatever environment they're within. But these particular ones actually look good in the color that they came in. So we were really happy with the way it came out. It was a new project for us, something that we haven't done before. And I think really allowed a more organization, and allocation to the mulch. Obviously right now you don't see the mulch within there. And the reason why is the hash marks still need to be painted in the parking spaces, the 2 parking spaces you see here that are going to be taken up by the area of which cars would pull in, or people would pull in order to take the mulch. So within the next couple weeks, those are going to be painted out, and then the mulch, which is over on the other side of the parking lot, which you can't see right now, will be moved over and situated within that area, and obviously will be refurbished and replenished as needed, by the Parks Department. So we're excited about that and how it turned out, and feel like it provided a nice area within this landscape bed. No landscaping was removed in order to make this happen. This was a natural opening in area, so it just kind of worked out. And it turned out to look really nice and aesthetically pleasing within the park. So the thought is now we're going to evaluate doing something similar over at Philippone Park. Right now, the mulch bin structure that's over there is a bit somewhat unsightly. I know we tried to do some plantings around it to try to fix it up and make it look screened, but we are going to reevaluate potentially moving that area to the other side of the parking lot on the opposite side of the tennis courts, and or installing this type of a system where the existing system is now. So that's something we're going to look at over the next couple weeks.
Tammy, you also, I'm sure, realize that all those plantings, they're 80% have died.
They are, and we're aware of that, and we've let All Seasons, the company who had provided those to us, are aware of that, and they would be replenished under warranty. So it's right now we're evaluating when we're going to take those out and how we're going to replant that area, because there was a rain garden that was under the area in which those trees are located and have died, and it seems as if the ground may have been holding too much moisture in order to be able to sustain them. So that's something else that we're also taking a look at. John Hosbeck, I know, was over there a couple weeks ago and looked at them, and right now we're just working with All Seasons to come up with a new plan. Yeah, unfortunately they look really bad, but it is something that we're in the process of addressing. So this is also another type of structure that we'll look at Fenimore Woods. We can look at Itham Valley Park. We can look at at other areas where we know the mulch has been pretty popular, and something that will continue to exist in those areas. So if we want to maybe transition back right now just to capital projects. Ian, if you want to you can pull the screen back down if you want, just for now. But looking ahead into 2021, obviously, I don't have a crystal ball to know, the direction in which we're headed. What we do know is right now we are still working off of the 2015 bond, which included Fenimore Woods and Itham Valley Park. Those are the 2 remaining projects. So those are going to continue to develop, over the next year at least, for Fenimore, of course. And then there was also a 2019 bond, I know Steve referenced it, that also, in addition to some of the additional trail funding, had included Odorosio Park's basketball courts and Cowan Park's basketball courts. And as you probably know, if you've been out to those spaces, those basketball courts are in really bad shape. And they're in desperate need of complete reconstruction, resurfacing, repainting, and all new equipment with, backboards, hoops, poles, the whole bit. So those are two projects that we're also going to be working on, over the course of the next year and getting those completed. So looking ahead, into 2021, I know that, I didn't circulate a copy of last year's budget. I know Steve had referenced, the budget. If you looked at it today, numbers are constantly changing. It is a living, breathing document. Numbers that would have been developed and conceptualized in there for projects last year or a few years ago definitely have changed in value. Even despite the pandemic, I know that costs, have continued to, it sounds like in the construction world, stay stable. So a lot of those numbers that you would have already and have been presented to you in the past are all the same in which you're looking at, that you would be looking at in the current budget that was for 2020. So nothing has really changed. If anything, it's just the volume of projects, obviously continues to grow as needs continue to grow within the parks. So just as last year, we had presented to the Board of Commissioners, the importance is really on, the projects and the improvements that impact health and safety. Those are the most eminent that we need to address and we need to be mindful of. And, looking through the parks, some of those have to do with, parking lot reconstructions, playground equipment and things like that. That really, we need to be mindful in addressing sooner versus later. And, the more we let those types of projects, kind of go down the road, the more the projects start to pile up. So again, I don't have a crystal ball on where we're headed for 2021. But if there is an opportunity to have more borrowing for funding for parks, we definitely are not short on projects. Again, as you guys know, in the list that I've presented to you over the past several years, there's a lot of things in that conversation. There's, Odorosio Park with regards to the comfort station that's there, the playground that's there, the parking lot that's there, North Wayne Park Playground. We've talked about a bathroom at the Willows. Radnor Activity Center continues to be something in that conversation. So there's a hearty list. And not, getting into the details of any of those, obviously tonight, I would probably just encourage the board to continue to, review those projects, review the parks. And as you have suggestions or you have things that you see, continue to put those before me. And that way they can, be, internalized and digested by staff as we keep moving through this process. And if there's information within the past budgets that you need me to pass along again, to see some of those items, I'll be happy to do that. It really will just be a, reiteration of some of the stuff that was provided last year.
Maybe as we I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Bill.
No, I had just a brief comment that was just simply, once we recalibrate park stewardship and whatnot, then perhaps that's something we can look towards a focus on over the next couple of months. It's just identifying perhaps those safety and top priority issues to the extent they may have eluded others, just to make sure we're at least getting those things before the BOC, obviously with an eye towards other improvements to make them better and update them and modernize them. Sorry, Commissioner, go ahead.
No, that's all right, Bill. I just want to echo what you say, and that is really in terms of the prioritization. And thank you, Tammy, for keeping your eye on the ball on all of these things and having the in-depth knowledge across them and working with, the board and Steve Norsini and others, and certainly the public works staff of identifying what are the biggest priorities that are out there. I don't think that it's a shock to anyone on this call or anyone that is close to the township right now within the COVID environment. That prioritization is the key word, right? And figuring out, what needs to be done where and how we address the most important things, because coming out of COVID and probably for the next couple of years, we're going to be in a in a very tough situation in terms of funding and in terms of budget prioritization. But it's important that we do keep our eye on the ball on the most important things. It's no different than the conversation that I had for 90 minutes with Bill White and Steve Norsini this week, and taking a look at sanitary sewer and figuring out that and stormwater funding, or what are the most important projects across the township. And it's probably also no secret to anyone that there are delayed, and I'm coming to find this out in my first 8 months. I'm just amazed at the things that have been deferred and kicked down the road by previous BOCs and organizations within the township of not wanting to address some of these priority issues. And I don't think, in terms of Radnor Township and the township that we know and love and look to maintain, that we can afford to pass on some of these things. And I think Parks and Recreation is right up there at the top of things that we need to prioritize and figure out how we're going to get done the most important things and which things can be deferred. So thank you for that.
And we can continue to be creative too, internally, if there are things that can be, like, let's say parking lots, for instance, where full reconstruction projects can occur, doing patchwork and things like that to make things happen and make things better, at least on a short term, from an operational standpoint. We can make sure that we're looking at those things creatively as well, as a stopgap.
Sure.
Okay, any other comments, questions on our capital agenda item before we turn it over for park updates? All right, Tammy, I guess we're now at the old business, and I haven't forgotten about Mary. I'm not sure whether we put you into old business or new business with a Willows update, but let's let Tammy run through her things. And
Okay, no problem. Go ahead, Tammy.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Bill. Well, just a kind of a little bit of a recap. Beauconnor Philippone, we continue to work through a punch list of the items there, even though those parks are open and being very well utilized. We just, actually a week ago, we were evaluating ponding on the tennis courts and the basketball courts, where we flooded those areas just to make sure that the appropriate specifications have been achieved by the contractor. And the good news is that those have been achieved. So any ponding that you might see that happens on those spaces within some small areas is all within the specification. I think it's like a 1/16 of an inch, after 1 hour of water being on the surface. We also had the swing gates at all of the baseball fields adjusted. So some little things on the punch list that had still remained, but we are working through closure of the project. And then that will just leave us with addressing the tree plantings in the mulch bin area, which is something that'll happen over the next couple weeks, as I had mentioned, and trying to re-strategize the system that we have over there. And then we did have the grand reopening ceremony. It was planned for the Beauconnor Park concert that was happening in mid-July, which did get canceled, which was a decision that we made just because of some of the growing concerns due to COVID-19. So I think that was a good decision, and we'll keep that postponed, at least for the near future, and something that doesn't happen until next spring or next summer, depending on where we are. And the same will go for Emlenton L Park. We want to celebrate the comfort station completion, and that'll be something that we'll look forward to doing when it's safe to do so, where everybody can feel comfortable interacting and being around one another, and we don't have to limit attendance and things like that to make stuff like that happen, because we want those project celebrations to be something that's really special, because they truly are. With Emlenton L Park, for anybody who's been over there, the bollards were installed as well. I know there's some pictures that I have of those. Ian, if you want to switch over to take a look at those so we can show some of the board members that maybe haven't seen them yet. I think they came out really nice. You see them there in the front of the building to protect the building. There's a slide just before that one to show the full side of the building. So that one kind of shows the full view there. And the parking spot that you see there is going to be a handicap. It'll be striped for handicap parking. It will also have all the appropriate striping and everything in place that'll go along within that. And then lastly, I think what Public Works intends to do is smooth out some of those rough surfaces within the lot. There's also a little bit of a dipping in the lot further back to where you can't see on the picture. And their goal is to make some corrections to those spaces too. Again, just a good Band-Aid to kind of put on the parking lot and in the space, since right now a full resurfacing and reconstruction of that lot just isn't feasible. And then just looking ahead to the future, I know there's walking path repairs that need to be made for anybody that walks that entire surface. You can see that there's a lot of imperfections that exist that definitely need to be corrected, that need to be addressed. So again, those are all things that, you know, sit out within the capital budget in the future in terms of the park and repairs. And but overall, it looks fantastic. I know Little League is happy, and everyone's been really excited to have the bathroom space available. Although the concession stand does remain closed and not currently being used, just per the guidelines that exist right now by the state. We have picnic tables that are coming for the overhang. They just haven't been delivered yet. So that's a project that Public Works will be installing those and putting those in there. And that'll be probably within the next month or so that those will arrive. But it's kind of good that they're not there right now anyways, because they would just be an attractive nuisance.
Tammy, can I just hop in here real quick? And I don't know if this was discussed at our meeting in June or not, because it's been a long time for me. There are cameras now at, speaking to protect the asset, there are cameras there now, is that correct?
There are, yes.
Okay, and none of them, I just want to get this out there, that none of them have any footage of private property. Is that correct?
No, they do not. None of them are capturing footage of private residents' property.
So it doesn't cross the property line, or probably not even the street. Am I correct?
No.
Just your house, Sean. We're keeping an eye on you.
That's Clem McCrone. But all right, I just want to, because I know that Tammy, I know that a bunch of neighbors had some concerns, and I think it's good to get it out here in the public forum that it's not crossing the threshold of the street or anyone's lawn or driveway or anybody else.
They're not. The capture points are all around the building. So if you look head on to the building right now, you can kind of see the cameras that go above each of the restrooms. And then there's another one that's under the overhang. And then there's another one that's on the backside opposite of what we're looking at on the building, facing where the batting cage is right now and the ball field B. But they only capture a small distance the way that they're cast and the way that they're focused in terms of what they're able to pick up, so that we're able to monitor the perimeter of that building and be able to see, you know, any nefarious activity that might be going on.
Okay, great, thank you, I appreciate that. And the neighbors appreciate that as well.
Sure.
It looks great. I have not been down there yet to see it, but pictures speak loudly. It looks great.
It is.
And the functionality has been critical.
It is great, and I've heard nothing but positive feedback from the folks that use the park or from the neighborhood, as I'm sure others on this board have. So thanks to everybody involved in that project. It's an incredible change from a few years ago when you had those ugly porta pots and a whole bunch of other mess over there. So it is now at least a corner of the park that's befitting of the township.
And Public Works did a great job on the bollards. They did a great job on the mulch bins. That was all them. You know, they were in charge of that process and putting those all, you know, the installation together and all of that. So we were pleased with the outcome. So Ian, while you have this slide up, or this file up, if you want to scroll down to the last two slides, so go to number 6. We updated the park signage within all the parks. So all the previous signs that looked like this, but in the upper right-hand corner, they had a note about face covering recommended. We changed all of these over to reflect the PA Department of Health's, current mask mandate, so that, we can continue to encourage mask wearing throughout the park system. Something I know that, folks, some folks are adhering to and some folks aren't. We're getting a lot of mixed feedback about that. And then also took it as an opportunity to express Radnor's new campaign, Mask Up Radnor, which has been developed by Molly Gallagher, who's our PIO, our Public Information Officer. And then in the next slide, we also have this sign up that, takes it a little bit further and, kind of expresses the, 6 foot distance, washing hands image, again, on behalf of the Department of Health. So hoping that, with having these signs at all of the park entrances, all of the playground areas, that we can continue to encourage folks to do the right thing and make sure that they're observing the mask mandate that does exist out there, especially when they can't 6 foot distance from others or are in close, area within folks who are not, members of their own family.
I'd just like to say this is great. And some of you may have been privy to a copied email that I sent along a couple months ago about my fairly strong feelings about this, especially from a school board member's perspective, that in order to keep the possibility of opening schools high, and in order to sustain any opening that we do, we all have to come together as a community and really get serious about this and take these public health measures seriously. So I think this is fantastic, and kudos to everyone involved, especially Molly.
Thank you. And I'll pass that along to Molly as well. And I know it's something that we continue to push out on social media and the website and every opportunity that we get. I know it's something that we've taken very seriously within our programming as well, and something we continue to share with those folks, as well as the legislation that the board passed a few meetings ago in regards to encouraging and supporting mask wearing throughout the township. Is something that, like I said, we take seriously, and, even have, when it comes to programming, not following the protocols that have been set in place, we passed along to them that they could be restricted in terms of continuing to operate as a result of not following those mandates. So just to kind of continue along, I don't know, even Ian, if you want to, you can take this off now, but just to continue along with regards to the park projects, I'll just talk a little bit about Fenimore Woods. I know that's the next really big one that sits out there. I know we've been talking about it for a while. I feel like a broken record every Parks Board meeting, but we did have a little bit of a shutdown with regards to being able to apply for the NPDES permitting, which is it's guided by the US EPA, and it's regulated by the PA Department of Environmental Protection. It's an application process that we have to go through with our stormwater management plan and overall concept plan of the park. That was put on hold when everything within the state had shut down in March. So we understand that the guiding body there has opened back up. Our application is being reviewed, and right now we're just in the process of receiving any type of comments and information back that could impact the plan, which before it goes to bid is information that will be essential for us to know. And then once we understand any changes or maybe no changes need to be made, that'll help us finalize the actual plan, which I know in terms of other pieces of that design and plan, Steve Norsini and I have been going through with a fine-tooth comb and just working with Gilmore and Associates, who is our design consultant there, and looking at things like, fixtures within the comfort station, the pavilion, pieces of playground equipment, the types of benches, the brands, picnic tables, all those kinds of things that, seem really easy to just sort of, put on paper and put out there, but take some time to really finalize and make sure we're allocating the proper specifications and proper locations within the plan for where those things will be placed and how they will be built. So we're still going through that process and also trying to balance the costs of what are left within the bond as a result of all the other projects that have taken place, like O'Connor Philippone and Emlyn Tunnel, which were all projects that were, before they were budgeted, ended up being much more than what they, originally were forecasted to be. So there may be some value engineering that may have to occur within the Fenimore Woods plan. We're working through that process right now. The tree removal and replacement plan was presented at the July Shade Tree Committee meeting. Claire, you might have recalled that. That was approved, so we're in good shape there. And really just, like I said, working through the final details of the plan to get it to bid. And then once we get the bids back, that's where we'll really know, what the true costs of the project are going to be. And in the meantime, making some determinations on Itham Valley Park. That's another one of the last projects within that 2015 bond. A lot of those projects within there were performed in-house, but we do have some things that we're evaluating, such as the fencing, the iron fencing at the park, the stone wall, and of course the signage to try and get some of those projects completed as well, as we round out the final dollars within that bond. So I don't know if there are any questions on either of those. So just a couple of other quick things. The Willows Entrance, as everybody probably knows, is currently closed due to the Darby Paoli Road bridge reconstruction that's taken place just outside to the west on Darby Paoli Road, outside of the entrance, and something that definitely impacts the daily usage at the Willows and experience at the Willows, which will be at least, we believe, through the end of the year of 2020. I know for us, with having the big fall harvest event there every year, it's actually a blessing in disguise this year, and not wanting to have an event that generally attracts 3,000 to 5,000 people. So it's been a perfect storm of being able to put that event on hiatus for the year. In addition, the Radnor Run runs right through that area and utilizes that bridge. So the Radnor Run is going to be virtual this year. So again, a perfect timing for not having to deal with that closure and any type of rerouting that's needed. So just, I guess, the one more thing to kind of bring up is I know that Radnor Wayne Little League was before us in, I believe, February, if I'm not mistaken. I know it was early in the year, to talk about some projects, and I know one is getting a little bit more speed internally, and that's the ball field B at Enke Park lights. There's internally, there's some workings on an engineering plan and a lighting plan for that field that may be coming to the Parks Board potentially by the end of this year. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. We did encourage Little League that once they get their plan together, we'd like to take an opportunity to review it internally first, just so we understand, from an engineering standpoint, and any impacts to stormwater management, any impacts to the buffer that exists between the creek and the field, since it is very close down there in that area, especially along the first base line, that we understand their plan and whether or not it's feasible. So it would be something that would get internal review first before it would come live before the public and before the board. And as far as any of the other projects, I know they presented to us with regards to the scoreboards at Tunnel. I'm not aware of where those stand at this time.
Okay. Any questions for Tammy on her reporting? Any comments on Tammy's reporting?
Great job. That's my comment. Great job. Always, Tammy.
Always.
Right. I had asked when we were formulating an agenda just to see if we could get some type of an update on the Willows project, and we happen to have somebody who can give us some information on our board, which is Mary's. I think Mary's prepared just to give us an update on what's going on with the Willows. It's been a while since we've heard about it, and just curious as to how things stand.
The big news, I could break it down into a couple of topics. I'll talk about construction first. The big news is the roof is done. The roof is finished. The scaffolding was removed. They cleaned up the site, more or less, today, and the contractor hauled away. So, Tim, you showed that slide earlier. Can you show it again? It's just so beautiful.
Sorry, Ian, if you could bring that slide back up with the first image. I
That's
spoiled it. I'm sorry.
No problem. That's the aerial that they took, I guess, 2 days ago. And that's all, the red tile is by the original manufacturer of the original red tile that was there when it was first built in 1910. So that's very exciting. The contractor did a great job. There's new copper gutters, and the chimneys were redone. I'm pointing to it as if you could see where I'm pointing. They replaced, or actually, I don't know what the word is, I want to say, added back some dormers that had been removed over the years. So now there are 5 dormers facing the sort of the back where it's dark, where there used to be, in more recent years, 3. So a lot of work went into it, but it really looks great. So we're very excited about that. And the next major construction stuff will be expanding the terraces, which you can't really see too well now, but if you look at where the trees are to the right of the mansion, that's kind of masking where the slate terrace, you're probably all very familiar with, probably been to the Willows a million times for a million events. But we're going to extend the terrace over to sort of to where that non-grassy area that got dug up during construction is, so that we can have more outdoor programming and bigger spaces for events and other activities that go on. That's going to take a while because we have to raise funds for that. And we're in the middle, I shouldn't be saying, we're in the middle of doing that. We're going to have, we have something called the Great Slate Challenge that's going on now, where we're sort of selling slates to be purchased so that we can raise funds for the actual construction. And there's going to be a fall fundraiser coming up in a few weeks. It'll be outdoors. It'll be held in the courtyard area. And then we've just been steadily building up donations over the past couple of months. Some are small donations, some are pretty generous donations. Been really rough raising funds in the time of COVID. Money's just hard to come by. A lot of nonprofits are having difficulty raising funds. We're just grateful that stuff continues to roll in pretty steadily for us due to some very generous people and just people in the community who are very excited about this and are helping out. I should point out that Nolan Painting has donated in-kind services, and they're going to paint 2 of the rooms. A room called the billiard room, which is sort of that little bay that sticks out to the north, to the upper right-hand corner. And then in the middle, there's the billiard room, which is all wood paneling. And then the next sort of bay is what used to be the dining room. And right now they've got kind of funky wallpaper or murals on them. They'll be painted a nice neutral color, which will be good for events when we can start to have more indoor events. COVID has really been a problem, not just on, construction was delayed, fundraising is not as robust as it might otherwise have been, but also all the programs that we had wanted to put on. We had to postpone or cancel a lot. And Tammy, you know what that feels like. There are just things you couldn't do because of, the number of people that you could permit. And so we've got a great list of ideas, but a lot of that is simply going to have to wait until, hopefully it's foreseeable, until things ease up on COVID, whenever that might be. In the meantime, we continue to come up with creative ideas and hope to do a little more in the way of virtual programming. That's sort of the programming. We did have a couple of events. We had 2 outdoor free, socially distanced concerts, sort of on the lawn of the mansions, again in the upper right-hand corner there in that grassy area. We had one in July, one in August. There were about 80, 75 people in the audience who came. They were spread out. They brought their own blankets. They brought their own food. The performers performed, further up the lawn, closer to the mansion. They were local talent. We collaborated with John Fisher's Winding Way Records company. He brought in the talent and did all the electronics for it. And of course, the township helped out too. So we worked with the township on getting that going. So that was really good. We're hoping to have one more in October. So we'll see how that goes. That we think we'll be able to do within our leased premises, because the construction stuff will be out of the way. We helped the Radnor League of Women Voters with a program that they put on a couple weeks ago, the end of August, to celebrate the passage of the 19th Amendment. So we helped them, navigate putting on that event in the park. And we were going to have a wonderful event on diversity and nature jointly with the Land Conservancy of Southern Chester County. That was going to be the middle of July, and we had to postpone it because of terrible thunderstorms. But we'll try to do something with them again. We've got some cleanup weekends planned around the mansion, pulling weeds, branches, sweeping up, doing some plantings. And we'll probably have some low-key open houses, just basically open houses. The door is open. We'll have, a mansion sitter there and let people from the community come in and take a look around and see what's going on. See if there's anything else. We've got a decent presence on social media and our website, so go look at them. Check out our website, check us out on Facebook, and see what we're up to. We have a newsletter that comes out every month. So if you're on our mailing list, you should be getting that. If you want to be on our mailing list, just let us know. And we've had a meeting with the township in August to discuss coordination of programming. And so Tammy and I agreed we're going to try and do some sort of shared calendar of events so that we're not in each other's way or duplicating or complicating each other's lives. Again, we don't have much program to offer right now, but it's still a good idea. So we'll be working on that. And let me see. I think that might be all I have to report on. Tammy, is there anything else, or any of you guys, anything you'd want to know that I might be able to answer? Come up and take a look. Now that all the construction stuff, the fence is going to remain for a while because it's kind of a rolling construction site. But the scaffolding is gone, and it's just a lot easier to see things now. These trees, the Coosa dogwoods were removed because they were totally obstructing the view of the mansion, and we'll do some replacement planting either in the fall, or it might have to wait until spring. But it's looking really good.
Great job, Mary.
Thank you.
Sure.
Great work. Very exciting to see this project.
Coming to life. It's coming to life. If it hadn't been for COVID, we'd be really roaring, but it is what it is. So you have to work within those limitations. Yeah,
Well,
Tammy knows for sure.
Thanks for the update, Mary. It's great to see probably the most important immediate thing, that roof has been replaced, so that there should stop the bleeding, so to speak, in terms of the destructive forces that were going on there, and
right.
continued fundraising.
That was the first thing that needed to be done, and not only is it really in good shape now, there's a 100-year warranty on it, but it looks great, and it just brings back the the historic aspects of the mansion, so it just plays into that narrative beautifully.
Brings me back to my junior prom at the Willows.
Oh, yeah, everybody's got something that they remember for the Willows.
Sure do. All right, I think that's the end of our agenda for the evening. Tammy, I don't know, do we have any public questions or comments through this portal? I assume not, but I'd like to go through the motions at least.
Yeah, I haven't received anything. Ian, have you received anything?
No, I haven't.
Thanks. No.
Any topics for discussion, questions or comments that anybody wants to bring up this evening before we shut down? Claire, go ahead.
Just a really a quick one. I just wanted to let everyone know that our own Mary Coe was honored tonight by the Wayne Business Association, and it was a terrific privilege to be able to give her that award for as you can see from just what she presented to us, 30 plus years of her service to our township, and well deserved, and it was received really well too. So I wanted everyone on this board to know how lucky we are to have Mary Coe.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Dari.
You're here.
Thank you.
Larry.
It was really great. It was really great to have Claire present it. That was very cool.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Anybody else with anything before we close up shop for the night? Okay. Well, I think we're still on schedule to have our normal meeting in October, and Tammy will send out the usual notices and warnings and whatnot before that. I will circulate the list among the board to try to get a little bit of coherence that I've failed to do thus far this year in terms of park stewardship and be more formal in that regard. And with that, if anybody else does anything else, we could take a motion in a second and adjourn for the night.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thanks a lot, folks. We are adjourned.
Tammy, for
Thanks,
everything.
Bill.
here.
Thanks
Good
for
night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.